Hello, hello, everybody. It's America's Supermom. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I'm so excited to be here today. It seems like it's been forever since I have seen you all or shared some interesting topics that have been going on and interesting business entrepreneurs. Well, I'm scheduled to have a guest today who hasn't arrived yet. So I said, hey, no time like the present to get on and get started because it's been a while since I have seen you. So, a little bit about me is I am a podcast host. I am a mother of 15, an author, a speaker, and a lifestyle designer. I have struggled with mental wellness in the past for 13 years. I was hospitalized three times, and I am passionate about empowering women to understand what depression looks like. So, for me, with all the responsibilities that I've had to juggle, depression didn't look like staying in the bed, being demotivated. It was still taking place when I was taking my kids to soccer or being a part of field trips and all the different things that I was actively doing. I had no idea that I was depressed. So now I am here to raise awareness, not only for myself, but other women about what depression can look like because it looks different for different people. So my guest has arrived, so we will be having him join us momentarily. But at first, I want to give a shout out. This is a book that I received today from one of my previous guests, Joel Solomon, and it is The Nine Money Rules Millionaires Use. So I want to encourage you guys to think about as we are planning our year, our dreams and aspirations for 2021 to remember what it is that we are working on building. Get insight from people. This book is The Nine Money Rules Millionaires Use. So that means they had to ask the questions, right? They had to seek counsel for different things. We're not an island, we can't do it by ourselves. And so it's okay to ask questions. So that's really the premise of what this podcast is about, is getting insight from other people who are doing whatever they do in their zone of genius and sharing with us some tips and hacks and just how they look at life and how they can make it through. So, without further ado, I'm going to be bringing my guest on with me today. I am super excited to have Joe Pardo with me, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your last name right.
Yeah, no, you pronounced it great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
I've had it pronounced lots of different ways. But
Okay,
it's
and
not
you're
hard.
super Joe. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Super mom, super Joe. Hey, we got some super stuff going on here. So I'm excited. So before we get into an interview, and just want to be transparent with the audience, he and I have not met. This is our first conversation together live on YouTube. And I'm telling you, it's a great thing to do. It's nothing to be scared of. So before we get into our interview, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm a profit growth strategist. I work with small businesses, medium businesses, on growing their profit so they can, hire more people and save jobs in the process, right? And I've been podcasting. I've been content creating since 1996. I've been podcasting since 2014. I'm also the founder of the Independent Podcast Conference and Community that has grown very rapidly over the last, thanks to COVID, because we've been doing all these virtual conferences that got a lot more people involved than before. We used to be called the Mid Atlantic Podcast Conference, and we changed it in 2019 over to Independent Podcast Conference, or Indie PodCon. And thanks to 2020, I had a lot of free time to dedicate to that, and we held 10 virtual conferences, and from March, the end of March till October, the end of October was the last one that we held. So it's grown our community. So if you're into, if you want to learn how to podcast, if you got questions, want to understand how you could get better at it, how it could better serve your business, come over to indiepodcasters.com and join our community. And we have our next in-person event scheduled for September 9th to the 11th, but I don't know if that's, fingers crossed, but The
Yeah,
the
we never.
realist in me is like, yeah, I can't see, I don't see a realistic path to that people feel confident by then. Maybe
Yeah,
in time for then, right? Like maybe by September people are confident, but like to go to an event, you gotta know a little bit advance that like there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I don't know. We'll see,
so
but
true.
yeah.
Now, I love this. And so, you mentioned a little bit about how things have still really boomed for you during this time, because we have so many people that I get that we have a lot of, I'm sorry, one second. You guys, mommy is recording. Can y'all please quiet down? Come and shut my door. This is the real life, keeping it real, right?
My kids were just in here. I was trying to like start doing my taxes a little bit ago, and my daughter was like, "Can I play Minecraft?" And I'm like, "All right, you can't talk to me because I'm just gonna have my headphones on and start like chipping away at the tax thing here."
So true. But yeah, so we're back to the whole thing of pivoting or whatever the terminology is for it, because so many people don't like that word. It's been overused, but just being able to take the lemon, so to speak, that we've been dealt and making lemonade. So talk to us about, the mindset you had to have to transition during this time that's helped you to continue to thrive.
It's tough because the goalposts of what thrive means is very vastly different than it was prior to the world coming to a grinding halt back in March of 2020. Um, I to me like once I was down. Actually, I was in Florida leading up to COVID finally like becoming a big deal, and I was watching the news like leading up to the world coming to a stop. And
Mm-hmm.
I went down to Florida for a conference for Podfest in March, and I was watching the news. I'm like, man, just give me a reason not to go. Like I'm okay. Like if they don't let the planes take off, then I can't feel bad about the fact that I didn't get on the plane and went, because my family drove down behind me, and we all went to Disney World after the fact 'cause it was in Orlando. So
Mm-hmm.
that and of course, like I'm like, well, should we even be in a place like Disney because there's people from all over the world? There's like nothing shut down yet, nobody's got any kind of masks or separating or anything, and we don't really know the full extent of this stuff. And this is towards the middle of February to the end of February, and then I left, I think it was the first week of March,
Mm-hmm.
like in the first week of March, to head down to Florida. And I mean, even when I went, I wiped my whole seat down and everything on the plane. I didn't fly back; I drove back, but we didn't stop. like like the one place we stopped was other than you to get gas was a Chick-fil-A, because I knew they'd have clean bathrooms, and when
Yeah.
you went in there, it smelled like Clorox to the fullest. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, well, at least they're doing. I knew they were gonna have a clean bathroom. If anyone's gonna have a clean bathroom on the side of the highway, it's gonna be Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
Did not disappoint. But yeah, so when I got back, we had to we actually went and bought food while we were down in Florida, because like nobody was panicking. Like me and my sister went out because I had a minivan, she had her truck. So we went to the what's those things called, the Publix. We went to the Publix
Mm-hmm.
and we walked in there, and like, because we're seeing on Facebook like empty shelves, empty shelves. We go to Publix and it's like people are just walking around with like their little shopping cart, like like nothing's wrong. I'm like, oh my god, they have everything here except for toilet paper, because that was people already rated that. But they had everything. So like I bought lots of food and stuff, and my sister bought like chests to be able to bring like frozen chicken and stuff back, because that was
Mm-hmm.
actually really hard to get when we got back.
Mm-hmm.
But so we get back, and we get the other things that we needed, like the frozen stuff and all that. And then it was like, okay, so my business clients, I'm working with them, but they're kind of panicking because they're like, are we going to still be able to be in business? Like, there's a lot of watching the news and seeing what's the next update, where are we headed, what's going on. I'm in Jersey, so we were waiting for
Mm-hmm.
Governor Murphy to like
Oh yeah.
make the call on like what are we doing, and like who's in charge here. We don't know who's in charge, and it was kind of weird, like slow motion train crash kind of thing. and so I was like, okay, I at that point, like, I'm grounded, I'm home. We had all the food we could need, we were settled in and back, unpacked and everything. So I was like, okay, let I need to do something with our podcasting community. Let's host a
Mm-hmm.
virtual conference. So we got back on a Sunday, the Sunday morning. That was the day that Disney World closed its doors.
Mm.
We got back, and then so that Thursday I was like, let's do this for the next weekend. So by Sunday night I closed the speaker submissions, and we had over 60 speakers that wanted to speak at this virtual conference. And it went from being like, hey, let's have like a 6-hour thing where I could, host it on StreamYard like we're doing, right here, right now,
Mm-hmm.
to, okay, now I got to figure out how to do this, because we're going to go from like 9 a.m. until like 6 or 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I'm going to have to like split the streams up because I don't want Facebook to shut it down in between. And now we're at 2 days so that everybody can
Wow.
get their time. I didn't have to cut as many people back to have, speaking time. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of all evolved out of that. And so a week after we shut the speaker submissions down, we held the first event, and it was a crazy success. It grew our Facebook community from like 450 members, which, we had been growing year over year over year, but it still was like a relatively small community, to over 1,000 people at that
Wow.
point, and now we're at like 2,200 people. So, it's all about bringing people together, bringing the right people together especially at the right time when no one else was doing like anything about anything. I was like, hey, look, I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of us just got back from Podfest, but like the world is a totally different place now. So let's do this event and have a good time, and maybe put some stuff behind, put the stuff in the rearview mirror. Unfortunately, it's still in front of us,
I,
and who knows for how long. But hey, we were like, okay. So then I was like, okay, 2 weeks from now we're gonna do the next one, and then 2 weeks from then
mm-hmm.
we did the next one, and 2 weeks from then we did the next one. 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks, all through the summer, and October ended up being the end. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna take the next 2 months off. I was like, I got some other projects I need to focus on. I got some other things to do. I was working on building the studio out here, so it just was there was a lot of other and through that, like, I was building the studio through doing all these conferences, and that, like, we would like do some of the work, and then I'd have to move all my equipment out, and then move all my equipment, like vacuum everything up, move it back in, because I was doing other, coaching and stuff like that.
Mm.
So it was a very crazy kind of 2020 in that regard, even though we were home a lot from pretty much the whole time. But really, it's just like I said, bringing people together,
Mm-hmm.
to people said it was like their own little mastermind group, because every two
Yeah.
weeks they were getting together with the same people in a forum where it was open to Facebook. So the only barrier to entry to the virtual conferences was joining our
Mm-hmm.
Facebook group. So, like, you join the
Mm.
Facebook group, you get the virtual conference for free, and it helped it grow exponentially. I mean, we still get between like 3 to 8 people a day joining our group, which is, it's not as exponential as some of the biggest, the
Right.
podcast movement of the world that's at like 50 or 60,000 people now, but it just continues to avalanche
I
the
love that.
growth out of that.
Yeah.
So just, it all starts with just putting it, getting it put together, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And if you want a great example of that, TV is a great example of that, because we have,
Mm-hmm.
what is it, Law and Order SVU, and SVU Dallas, and now SVU LA, and SVU, it's like now, like, 911, and then 911 Lone Star State right after the fact. Like, all right, like,
Right.
you take the idea and you just keep flipping it over and over and over again.
So true. And talk to people who they see that there's a need within their community. It may not be podcasting, but whatever vocation or occupation they may have, how they can kind of build that culture or camaraderie. So you said, because it's not always about the numbers, but it's also about, them being heard and having that sense of community. So, what are some tips for somebody who feels like, they want to be able to create a space that's safe for people that they can come together and do the things that you've accomplished.
Yeah. Um, so I would say start with the rules. I always say like you can bend the rules, you can break the rules, but you got to have the rules to have that in the beginning, in the
Mm-hmm.
first place. So that really sets the tone. Like, one of the things that we don't do is we don't allow people to just post our newest episode in the group
Mm-hmm.
like all the time. So self promotion. We have days. Sunday is called Shine On Sunday. Usually it's me and my daughter that we get on Facebook Live. We jump into the group and we, say hi to everybody. We hope, wish everybody a great weekend. And that's the post that you can post your newest episode in. And what it allows for is this structure, right? And that structure is
Mm-hmm.
so important because if you're looking to like, hey, am I going to join this group or that group? And you look in and you're like, hey, there's helpful questions here versus like episode, I'm out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding any value in those specific episodes. You just doesn't happen to appeal to you. Well then, great. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's it's not like, oh, constructive criticism, constructive work. Constructive for the group and productive for the group to like get better at what they're doing, but get better at their craft. I'd also
Mm-hmm.
say that finding the right balance of like sponsorship, whether it's sponsorship from your own brand, like IndiePod, because of all of the growth that we had in 2020, I spun off the IndiePod University. So like, if you want to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
podcast, there's this awesome product where it's like before we used to have like virtual tickets and you could buy all the past virtual tickets for all of
Mm-hmm.
our events, and it was fine. I mean, we'd sell a few every once in a while, but it was like, hey, if I take all those videos, take the time, put them into the website so that they're all there for you, build a separate Facebook group just for those people that want access to like a monthly group coaching call and things like that. Like that is like the next step up, and try to keep it as simple, right? It's always KISS, keep it simple, stupid, and
Mm-hmm.
it really helps because you are the only person that's going to care about your brand. Like, as
Mm-hmm.
much as it pains to hear, as much as you're like, no, 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 like Billy and Jill and Kay, Kay, they all love my brand. They think it's awesome. It's like, yeah, they think it's awesome until you're asking them to put down like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, right? So only like
Mm-hmm.
a few people are really going to care about your brand. So keeping it as simple and easy to digest and understand is imperative because we don't have the marketing dollars behind us like the
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Colas and the Apples and the Samsungs to say, oh well, we're gonna put out this new thing and it's gonna be called the blah 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 pen, and but we're not gonna call it a pen. We're just gonna call it the writing thing. And everyone's going to know
Mm-hmm.
because there's going to be an ad on every 30 seconds that you flip the channel, flip on a station or flip on the radio, or an ad in Facebook or an ad, there's enough to do
Yeah.
that education. So I think sometimes we get sucked into that idea that, well, look how all the other brands are doing. If it's working for them, it should work for me. And it's like there's a reason it works for them, and the reason isn't just because they've existed a long time. It's because they're constantly pushing the education upon everybody
Mm-hmm.
else, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't discount that because it's huge.
Mm-hmm. I love that, and I mean, that brings up a good point because, a lot of times as podcasters, we're like, oh, I had this great guest on. So you're not really, and I'm just speaking for myself sometimes because, now that you mentioned that, it's like, man, when I post that in different groups that I'm in, not necessarily Facebook groups, but sometimes messenger threads and things like that, you're like, man, this person who came on gave great value. So, how do you know, even if you're just promoting one episode a week, what to put on there and not put on there? And is it the post that you add with that, that helps give it value? So, talk to us about, knowing how to walk that line.
Yeah, I mean the most important thing to me is to give the reason why somebody should care, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that hook, right? Like I've been doing more and more in the last three, 4 years in YouTube, right? And learning
Mhm.
like why is it that I watch the content that I watch, and how to digest that, and then replicate the reasons that people stay around, or a reason people click on something, right? The thumbnail, the title.
Mhm.
You put in, oh, Super Joe Parr's on a show. Okay, there's maybe 1,000 people that will really care about that, like
Mhm.
maybe, and you might know one of those people, maybe, and I might be the only one, I might be the only one of those one people, of those 1,000 people, but that will know and care. But the important things that come out of that interview, the statements that are made, the ability to grab somebody's attention and say, okay, I'm going to click through, and now I'm going to make that decision, hit a play button, and now I'm going to make the decision to give you 20 seconds to like really get me involved, like get me in. And I see this, with podcasting, it's kind of tough because not every stats company gives like how long did they listen and where did people drop off,
Oh.
but YouTube does. And when I go back and I look at like that, like where I'm creating, it's almost like universally, and I'm working on fixing it, like 12 seconds. Like 12 seconds is what you have to like get somebody hooked into the video or the piece of content, and get them to the next, like get them to the next minute, right? And then get them to the next
Mm.
minute, and to the next minute, and to the next minute. And there's some really great channels out there. So it's not just about the, podcasting is a little different because podcasting is about the interview, not
Right.
necessarily the interview, but the longer form content, right? YouTube
Mhm.
generally, I mean, they're starting to do these hashtag shorts, where it's like, oh, it's a minute long or a minute and a half, and like that's the content, versus, a lot of them are 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. Some of them some of the videos I watch will be 18, 20 minutes, but I'll watch them at double
Mhm.
speed so that I can get through it
Mm.
faster, right? But not everyone's
Mhm.
like me to do that, and I'm not always in a
Mhm.
situation where I can, like in your situation right now, where it's like you have the kids, or
They're
talking,
here all
or
the time.
yeah, it's listen to two times when other people are talking around you. It's just, I mean, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. And
But
it
yeah,
depends on who the content creator is. If they have, thicker accents, it's really
yeah,
hard to like
you gotta
double
slow
up
it
the speed on
down.
it.
I'm with you on
Usually
that.
like 1.25 for me, maybe 1.5, but sometimes it's just not the case. It just depends on the voice. It depends on the content. It depends if it's something funny.
Mhm.
You want the jokes. You want jokes. Well, you want the jokes to land. You don't want to speed demon through it.
Mhm.
You're not going to get the
Mhm.
full effect. So, really thinking about why people should click on the video or click on the link, um, why people should share it, and getting people to share things is like pulling teeth. People only share what they really care about. Even if they love you,
Mhm.
doesn't mean they're going to share the thing that you did. You've done, you created. I've I've been living it for a long time. So it really has to resonate with somebody to a deeper level, and then even then you have to really think about like what's that title going to hook the next person that sees it, because like
Mhm.
you cared about it, so you clicked on it and you're like, oh, I'm going to share this. Oh, okay, you share it, but then nobody else resonated with it because it didn't, the thumbnail and the title didn't do it. It doesn't matter if we're talking about
Oh, I
YouTube or
see.
just like the featured image and the title of the post, the title of
Right.
the episode, right? Going through your feed, go through your RSS feed, and if you're looking at it through your phone, and it's like, you type in like, it says episode 15, blah 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 blah, and then you can't even read it because you've already used so many characters to write out the word episode and a number and a space and a dash and another space and then the title. Yeah, you already missed your opportunity to hook somebody into that episode. Only certain shows are going to
Mm.
get that opportunity to like get people to click on every single episode. And even then, it's still better to have that the title be just the thing that gets you to click on it, because you
Mm.
don't know who's looking. You don't know who just
Mhm.
discovered it and now is like, I'm gonna pass over this because it didn't seem to excite me, or the title didn't really uh give a good example of what the content is. Not that it's
Mm.
clickbaity, but just that it wasn't enticing enough.
I love that. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of overlook. So when you're trying to come up with a catchy or stop the scroll type of title,
Mhm.
what are some things that we should keep in mind?
Well, first off, faces.
Mm,
People love faces. Even if you just look through your own like Instagram, if you look through your own Facebook feed, if you look through pretty much anything, the posts that you have that have faces. I mean, in my experience, the clients I've worked with, generally they do better when there's faces.
mm,
Now with that said, there are audiences that are fine without faces. They're fine without any of that. But I mean, just look at like YouTube and look at all the thumbnails and especially ones within the last like year to 2 years, 3 years, all got faces on them, right? Go to any website, you're gonna see a face somewhere on that page, like because people want to
mm,
identify with somebody or something, right?
mhm,
Uh, so even if it's an inanimate object, you generally want to see a face. So
mm,
be utilizing faces. Um, usually it depends on whether or not like what the kind of content you don't want to like have a featured image or a thumbnail that like is again clickbaity because it's like, oh, like you'll never
mm,
believe this, and it's like you never there was nothing to not believe because then people don't trust, right?
right.
People lose that trust, like we're seeing with mainstream media and how people don't trust what's there now, and it's like
Mhm,
because we've been there already, right? We've done that stuff before, and that same cycle has gone through YouTube, and that same cycle has gone through just
mm,
websites in general because too many people have been not fulfilled by what they were clicking on, whether the title was over the top or the thumbnail was over
mm,
the top. Um, I think figuring out where that lines and it's a muscle, right? Because you don't just
mhm,
get really good at making those titles overnight. It's one of those things that's like
mhm,
you constantly have to be doing it, reinventing things. And like one of the I don't want to say it's a mistake, but one of the mistake like I just said it was a mistake. One of the things that I did that I wouldn't necessarily recommend is like when you're creating the SEO for your episode, like
mhm,
the show notes and all that search engine optimization for the uninitiated. Um, when you're doing that, utilizing the person's name is generally not going to get you very far because people aren't necessarily
mm,
searching for that name. Now, with that said, some of the people I've had on my show, they've actually now, 4, 5, 6 years later, they're actually starting to blow up in their fields and people are
right.
searching for them. And now my interviews are coming up, and it's like great, but those interviews are 4, 5, 6 years old. So
Right.
cool, I guess. I mean, they're finding my website, but they're not. It might not even be necessarily aligned with where I am today with my business and what I do and the
Oh.
clients I work with. So it's
Mhm.
kind of tricky in that regard. It's also kind of tricky because you you know it depends on I wouldn't necessarily think about things in terms of like topics for episodes because you might have 6 or 7 or 10 or 100 people on your show that are all talking around the same topic. So again, if you going back to like making a title where it's like what's unique about this episode, what can you derive from it, and it's again not an easy thing to do, but it's something that will get you further along, and not utilizing the person's name like for
Mm.
SEO purposes is generally a better idea than it's not the easier idea. The person's name is way easier, but it's
Right.
you will get so much more out of it by writing intentional content that go along with your podcast episodes, to go along with your YouTube videos that people will find and then say, "Oh, this looks awesome. I'm going to listen. I'm going to watch."
So yeah, so just kind of creating your own brand or your own niche, based on what it is that you want to
Yeah.
provide,
Mhm.
and the guests are just like the icing on the cake. You don't want them to be the cake, because you may not have that type of guest all the time. So I get that. Now, so what are some creative ways that we could monetize podcasts? Because so many people do different things around it. I'm one that I don't really do a lot of sponsorships with commercials. For me, I love to get to the meat of a subject. I don't like to break and, come back after this episode. I mean, commercial break. That's just not me. So, what are some other ways that, we can be creative with monetization?
Yeah, so monetizing through your own books, your own products, your own
Mm,
shirts, your own people buy into an idea. They're not buying into oh, I have the softest shirts, or I have the best hoodies, or I have the
mhm.
best water bottles. Though I mean, this water bottle is actually a whatever, what was the thing, like a swag
It's a
thing,
Super
like
Joe water bottle.
it is not. It is a Linus Tech Tips bottle, and it took for
Oh,
like I thought about buying this for like the longest time, and I finally it was like 35 bucks, but it's 40 ounces. So I was like, all right, this is
now,
cool.
so
And the
what's
thing
so
is
special about that now? Hold it back up.
well, it's vacuum sealed. It's you
Okay.
can't tell like see you can't even see like any of the branding or anything until
Right.
it's like this specific one. They have gold ones and
Oh,
pink
I see a
ones and
little bit
green
of it. It
ones.
kind of blends in. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, but if I go like this, you can't see it because it's
Right.
only shiny within thing. So having high quality products is awesome, but people aren't gonna buy it just because it's a high quality product. They want what it stands for, right?
Mhm.
They want to be a part of something. So I think that it's really important at that point that you have your brand pretty like nailed down, and then you can
Mhm.
go and you could figure out like, okay, how do I get high quality stuff, right? If that's what you want to
Mm.
do, but that's only once you got the brand. Like just because you have a shirt doesn't mean anyone's going to necessarily buy the shirt. They want to buy into you. They want to buy into the brand. They want to buy into what it stands for
Right.
first. So high quality stuff is just comes after the fact. So yeah, so that's one way. So having your own products, having your own services. I mean, that's one of the ways that I've sponsored my shows through the years is offering the coaching, the consulting through the Super Joe Pardo show.
Mhm.
So you're using it as a lead generator funnel to like for people to trust you, know, like, and trust you, and want to
Mhm.
work with you, right?
Mhm.
And to me, that's the like that's great because you're in control of so much of it, right? Digital products you're in control of because you can literally have people download those, right? As much as they possibly you can possibly sell. Physical
Mhm.
products generally are overly priced because of all the hands that gotta get through, but you can do
Mm.
it. You could buy your own high quality shirts and merch and stuff, and then ship it out. But then that's turns into like a whole job in and of itself. If you're selling, excuse me, that much. So so the other things you could do, there's your own products, your own services. You could do affiliates for other companies,
Mhm.
whether it's Amazon affiliates or other services. If you have people on your show and you say, hey, like, what's your affiliate link? Can I get in on that program? So when people listen to, my audience listen to the show,
Mm.
I want to get a kickback. You could get ad reads if you want, like that. Just make sure that you're actually getting paid for the ad reads instead of like
Oh.
doing the affiliate route. Because like I'm not a, it's just me. Like me personally, I'm not a big fan of that because yeah, you're gonna get money if they buy into it, but if nobody buys into it, they got mind share and you got nothing, right? Like the
Right.
company, the brand got mind share into somebody else's mind, potentially telling other people
Right.
about it, but you got nothing. Like, oh, if you didn't go to my superjoepardo.com/, blah 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 link, I got nothing, right? So
Right.
it's there's potential there to make a lot of money, but it just depends on the audience that you have, right? Is the audience
Mhm.
that's is the audience going to take action on it? The other thing is once you have a sponsor, more people want to be to sponsor you in the process, right? It's like
Mhm.
what it's like the boyfriend girlfriend thing, right? Like nobody wants you until you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and then all of a sudden it's
Right.
everybody wants you, and it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
uh, so it's one of those things where it's like if you think that you're going to if it is part of your intention to have sponsors in the show, do ad reads and all that, I don't want to say make them up, but like you could go and apply for Amazon affiliate links, right? Or, Amazon
Mm-hmm.
affiliate account, and then do it as a sponsor and send people to like a pretty link for those products that you're specifically
Mm-hmm.
talking about. So at least then you're getting the practice, right, of doing an ad
Mm-hmm.
read. Your audience is used to the fact that you have it. It's not like, oh, we did 150 episodes. Now all of a sudden we got these ad reads, and it's too much. It's too much, and it's like, well,
Right.
people are really finicky about that. I'll tell you one thing, that one of the YouTubers I follow wrote this or did this video explaining how much it irks them that people who make YouTube videos and podcasting as an extension, they
Mm-hmm.
don't get donations like live streamers do. Right, live streamers on Twitch and live streamers on YouTube and Facebook, like they get donations, like boom, $5, $10, $20, $100,
Didn't know. Do they just have a link
like it's
for
nothing. No,
donations?
it's built right into the platform. So like
What?
if you're on Twitch, you can get donations like built right there on the platform. They have it as well on YouTube. As long as you have a certain following, like a certain amount of following to
Oh.
enable that, you can receive donations straight through them. So it's like these people that are streaming, they're getting donations, but on YouTube, it's like, oh, you had an ad read on yours. Plus, I had to watch a 5-second ad in front of your video. How dare you? Like, that's just asking too much, And God forbid if you try to sell some merch, like, versus like these people that are on like live streaming video games, they're just getting, they get people to donate all day long. So much
Wow.
so that I think she's the highest grossing streamer on Twitch, Pokimane. She actually
Mm.
limited her because only a certain percentage of her money was coming from donations anyway. A lot of it's coming from like brand deals and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
she actually limited her donations to $5, so people couldn't send her more than $5 anymore because people were sending like $500 like dollars, $50,
What?
$100. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. So and it's crazy, right? Because we work so hard, like making that video. Like we'll spend 10 hours to make a 5-minute video.
Right.
And meanwhile, I mean, I stream as well with my daughter. We play Minecraft. But it's like when we're playing Minecraft, I'm just playing the game. Like, there's a
Mhm.
certain level of entertainment value there, but I'm not spending 10 hours to make a 5-minute video or
Right.
2 or 3 or 4 hours to do a podcast, to create one podcast interview. It's great. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Had no idea. Hey, that's why it's so good to ask questions because, you find out that, hey, we just don't know everything, right? Now, and we've been over here. I just really appreciate your time, but I'm going to close with this last question about
Sure.
new social media platforms. So, I'm not sure if you're on Clubhouse or
I
familiar
am.
with
I
it
am.
or anything. So, what creative ways would you say we could do to incorporate podcasting in the integrity of that type of industry into Clubhouse?
Well, it seems like there's an awful lot of people that are interested in podcasting that are on Clubhouse specifically.
Hmm.
We had a social media, I guess you call it a social media platform called Blab, not
Hmm.
a number of years ago at this point.
Hmm.
That I made a lot of friends from there that I'm still friends with to this day, right? And
Hmm.
so I think the interesting thing about Clubhouse specifically is that it's it's high maintenance for the
Hmm.
people. Like I see, all of my marketing friends, all of my podcasting friends, they're like, you go down their Facebook walls and it's just like Clubhouse, 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 Clubhouse. Nobody outside of nobody outside of them that I know is trying to get into Clubhouse, other than people that maybe are interested in podcasting, because that seems to be where all the podcasters are hanging out, at least
Hmm.
until they completely monetize it, or marketers like
Exactly.
the marketers to end up taking it over and ruining it like they've done so many other things.
Hmm.
Um, but it is high maintenance in the sense that like people are asking others for like, hey, I need moderators for these rooms, and um I don't know. So I've moderated 2 rooms so far, and I have plans to do some more things with Clubhouse in the pretty near future.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like the flavor of the week, and by middle of this year, maybe to be it'll probably be gone, especially if like Twitter bought some breaker, I think it's called, and if
Mm.
if they actually do a good job of integrating it may supplant Clubhouse in the sense that Clubhouse might still be small and grow, like it's small and growing, but like it doesn't have the install base of Twitter. So it's like if they
Right.
can siphon off the people that are on Clubhouse, it might not be big enough to sustain itself once they actually do have a legit, you know, um, revenue stream for
Mhm.
themselves. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of issues with Clubhouse in the sense that the mute button needs to be way bigger, way bigger on the screen. Um,
Yeah, about it.
but you need to be able to see what's going on too, like in the who's in the room. It
Mhm.
would be nice to be able to like cue people up because there's a lot of
Mhm.
awkwardness with like you brought somebody up, but then somebody else brings somebody else up, and then there's like 20 like half the room is on stage all with their mics muted. Like if you like, to
Right.
me, like you get up, you ask your question, you get the answer. If you
Get
have
back
something to
down.
say something, and then
Yeah.
bam, you either sit back down, or I put you down
Right.
back into the audience, right? And I think that to me, what I've seen so far in Clubhouse, because Clubhouse really, I forget when I first got into it. I think it was in the beginning of December or something like that. I was invited
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
and I didn't really have time to like play with it because we were going into the holidays. We had two
Mhm.
young kids. We have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we were trying to coordinate with family that we weren't clearly going to get together with. So we're
Right.
trying to like do all these things and all that. So I really didn't have time to sit down with the phone and like listen in on other people's conversations, especially without video, because there's also that awkwardness of like who talks next, and then people are unmuting or trying to talk over each other, and it just I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's things I think they can overcome.
Mhm.
A simple queuing system would be great
Mhm.
for like bringing people up on stage and things, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's great if you're able to get in there right now.
Mhm.
Do it. I would say if you want to learn something, there's a lot of people like looking to teach, looking to have
Mhm.
conversations. I've seen quite a few celebrity names come across my friend's Facebook. They're
Mhm.
taking pictures and like, hey, there's like Paris Hilton was in here and we are having a conversation. It's like that's cool. It levels the playing field at least.
Yeah.
At least until they all leave for the next flavor of the
Exactly.
month. But we'll see. We'll see. But I think the level of community that can be built out of that, and I've seen it with Blab. Like
Mm.
it can be great. It can absolutely be
Mhm.
great. But will it be great enough to sustain itself once like they actually have to start making money? Because you're not really a business if you're not making money.
Right. And, there has to be some kind of monetization because, people can be on there for hours. Now, we know it's a 24-hour platform, but some of these rooms, it's like they're just not closing.
Oh,
Every
I
time
know. They're
you
like
scroll
handing off
through there.
moderator, and now they have clubhouses like
Yeah.
inside of it. So I have some friends that got approved for their own clubhouses. We should probably have one for the indie pod
Yeah.
community, but I
It it
don't
ta
really
it
have the time for
it's
that
like
right
what you
now.
said, it does take a lot of time, and, I was kind of, I had no choice to get on it because of some of the leadership roles that I'm on. And so they wanted people to moderate, so it was like, boom, you just jumping right in swimming, so to speak. I'm still just a newbie. I've only been on it for 4 days, but I tell people, hey, set a timer. It's like anything new. You look up, you're trying to figure it out, or you doing whatever, and you're on there for like 3 or 4 hours. And, I always remind people to figure out how this fits into your agenda, whatever it is that you're working towards, because if not, you'll be sucked into somebody else's agenda before you know it, and hours and days go by, and you're thinking you're building relationships, but at the end of the day, you're really just creating a lot more work for yourself because of things that you are forgetting about.
Yeah, well, you always have to think like, am I creating, am I doing what the business needs right now, or am I building relationships
Mhm.
that maybe pay off? Like I'm rolling the dice that like maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe one or two or five of those, relationships, something comes out of that actually, produces for the business. It's
Mhm.
again, you're right. It is easy to get sucked in, and that's one of the reasons I haven't shied away from it. Like I said, I've moderated 2 rooms. I have some intentions to moderate a few more rooms, both podcasting and business related. But
Mhm.
it's I don't know. To me, like I'd rather it be video. Like
Mhm.
it's just so much easier, like to see and get reactions and things of that nature.
Yeah, because it can be, I mean, I think the time that I was on there, some of these rooms are a lot more organized. You are
Hmm.
able to see who's next and that kind of thing. But, um, it just bounces back. You can go in one room and you're getting a lot of value. You go in another room and it's like people trying to sell you. So it's like that constant up and down with different energy frequencies that to me is just kind of frustrating, because
I
every
know
room doesn't have the same standard, if that makes sense.
that's yeah. Well, I mean that's the internet in general. You go to
Yeah.
one website, get great advice, and go to the next and have terrible advice. I know some of my friends have said that about from podcasting and even business rooms where it's like they were getting straight like crap advice from people
Mm-hmm.
that like clearly they're trying to establish themselves as an authority in podcasting, but
Mm-hmm.
don't have nothing to back it up. And not only that, they're giving terrible advice to people. um
Right.
so, and I mean, it was one person, I forget who it was, said that somebody that I think they used to respect, or like somebody high up in the business world was like, if you're not making $50,000 a month take home from your business, then you shouldn't even have a TV in your house.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. That's a pretty high bar to set, to say that somebody should not have a TV in there. I mean, TVs, like literally, I could go on Facebook and get one for free. So
Yeah.
everybody
You
needs to
just
have some kind of downtime.
So true. I mean, and you just got to be careful with people because, people who have influence, they sometimes have no problem expressing their views. And, it's very important to remember that, you can be impressionable, you can be vulnerable, and certain platforms are just not the place to be on when you're having those low moments or whatever the case is. I mean, you just have to kind of guard that for yourself because people are
Absolutely.
opportunists. And, at the end of the day, they make known what their intentions are. And sometimes we don't read the signs.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, social media in general it can
Hmm.
very much be a predatory thing. From just like, look at what other people have, look at the other success that people are having, look at what they're out doing this stuff, and what am I doing? Well,
Or
I'm missing
appears
your
to be doing, right?
appears to be doing. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. I don't think a lot of people know. There was an article where it said like pictures of Instagrammers, where the it was like people taking pictures of people taking pictures for Instagram, and how
Mm.
awkward a lot of these like photo shoots are, especially because like there'll be like kids, like they're like, oh, we're taking, like we're on the beach and we're doing the sexy thing, and it's like, meanwhile there's like literally people standing right next to you on top of you at the beach, and there's nothing, a band or a what's it, like island, was it abandoned island? I can't think of the term, but you know what I mean, like you're not an island by yourself, with a
Right.
camera kind of thing. But you're trying to give
Yeah.
the appearance of that, where you're like, oh, we're at the pool, and it's and it's like this risque picture, and there's like literally kids sitting next to you on the side of the pool, and it's like, yeah, this is the kind of things is like people will see that and be like, oh, why am I not like living that
Right.
life?
Yeah.
um yeah, it's that's a whole rabbit hole. I haven't watched The Social Dilemma yet. I should probably
I
cue
haven't
that
seen
up
that either.
next.
So many people have talked about it, but I see I don't watch a lot of TV, so that thing that he was saying about the TV, it wouldn't even be a problem for me because I got lots of things that can keep me occupied besides TV. But and I just do that only by choice. And I do watch Netflix with my kids occasionally, but it's just the whole thing about sometimes things being toxic or I would be like one of those women that used to be on the Lifetime cycle thing. So it's like this, you spend the whole day watching Lifetime movies. So I'm like, there's better uses of my time.
I don't. The closest thing I could say to that was we watched oh, what's it? To Catch a Predator. Like one day, like I don't know, over 10 years ago, me and my wife laid in bed like all day and watched the To Catch the Predator
Hmm.
marathon. That's the closest thing I could say to that.
I was crazy. See, I would be on there. Then me and my daughters, my teenagers, we'd be like, oh, mom, this one's really good. And it's like, this is TV. You can watch this anytime, but something about that rush of watching stuff over and over back to back, I don't know. But I said I have a problem, so I had to put it down. It's like all or nothing with me.
Well, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. That's why they changed how the ends of TV shows are, right? How they
Mm,
run into the beginning of the next show, and there's no like, oh, here's the credits, and then we're going to commercial because they know you're not going to come back. They already got their hook right in the beginning. Again,
mm.
going back to content creation, like that's the thing is putting the hook right in the beginning to get you to say, ooh, that sounds interesting. I might stick around, and then we'll worry about the commercial later because you'll
Yeah.
already be hooked and want to see how it ends, right? So it's like screw the
Hmm.
credits. Like the credits will just fly right by you. That's not we don't nobody cares about that except the people on the
Hmm.
credits. And then we're already into the next episode. So we was it last night? There was I noticed there was a bar rescue was on, and I had my wife. She had the remote, and I was like, flick over. I was like, how many episodes of There's like 4 episodes in a row. It's like, of course there is, because they
Right.
know that they can hook you in, and get you to stay up until like midnight watching this, and
Right.
then they'll kick over to something else.
Right. And by then you're like, man, I after this I'm getting up. But it's like it's addictive, so I
It
get that.
is.
So
It is.
this has just been wonderful. So what's some of your goals for 2021?
Whew. Ah, man. So I would say working to um, getting back to working with more business owners this year.
Mm,
We've had expansive growth in the indie pod community, which has been awesome, and that's still paying dividends now. We'll
mhm.
probably do 3 to 4 virtual conferences this year for indie pod. I might probably do a few virtual conferences. We did one last year called the Super Entrepreneur Conference. We'll probably do another, maybe 2 or 3 of those this year. And just really work with people. I'm looking forward to. I don't think it's going to happen in 2021. But I'd like
Mhm.
to get back to doing. I was filming a TV show in 2019 called The Top with Super Joe Pardo. It's going to be
Mm.
rebranded as Small Business Rescue going
Mm.
forward. So we did the first episode. She and the lady we had in the episode ended up doubling her revenue from the
Wow.
previous year. Yeah, and when we filmed it, it was in like May of 2019. So by the end of
Mhm.
2019, she had doubled her revenue from 2018. Yeah. So like we
Wow.
like, and she didn't even get to implement everything that we talked about in the episode, but yeah, you could go and check that out at my website /TV, superjoepardo.com/TV. But
Mhm.
I would love to get back to filming more of those. It's a huge undertaking. Like I have all the equipment.
Mhm.
Like I filmed it. I had one person working with me to basically put the show together, and then
Wow.
he helped film it with me alongside me. So we have like drone shots, and it's a whole thing. But
Wow.
then I edited it, and then we put it out in the by the middle of 2019 as a pilot on YouTube, and we were hoping to get some more sponsors. Like it
Mm.
was like, oh, so me and my wife went and spent like tons of time emailing out all these different like Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of them got opened actually,
Mhm.
these emails, but nobody was willing to step to the plate and say, because we were like, oh well, if we could just get one sponsor, like this could go
Right.
really, like this could be great. Like this could be like the top of Super Joe Pardo, brought to you by Staples. Like it's a match made in heaven. Like it
Mhm.
should work, right? So we got some replies back there, but it wasn't nobody that was willing to step to the plate at the time. And then of course now with COVID, it's like even less
Mhm.
so. But so I want to get back to filming the Small Business Rescue show. Either maybe by the end of this year, have at least one or two more episodes.
That's
Um,
awesome.
from a content standpoint, still creating podcasts for my show, Super Joe Pardo Show, and as well as I've been doing these Biz Coach Reacts videos on YouTube, which have been doing really well. It's Shark Tank,
Mm.
The Profit, and Bar Rescue, where I like if it's a like The Profit, I took The Profit and then sliced it up to 4 or 5 videos, and I've
Mhm.
given my reaction to each part of that episode. So
Mm.
so it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to like sit in front of the camera, watch the episode, give more insight, more advice, uh, and that kind of stuff. So
Very
and the Shark Tank
creative.
ones are fun. I'm sorry.
That's good. I said
Oh,
that's
thank
very
you, thank
creative.
you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's also very tough because of the copyright issue that I have
I
to
can
kind of
imagine.
skirt around a little bit, but it took a while to get it dialed in just right, and there's still room for improvement, but yeah, so it's things like that I really want to spend as far as content creation goes this year, um, and just work with more business owners on growing their profit.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. That's great. So, anything I can do to help you, please let me know, even if
Well,
it's
thank you,
just,
Lachelle. I appreciate that.
promoting anything, really, because that kind of stuff is very important in terms of allowing people to see the authenticity. There's so many things out here that are just not authentic, as we talked about earlier. So, whenever
Yeah.
you have an opportunity to help and collaborate, it's just spreading the word. Somebody in my network may be looking for that. It's just as simple as passing on information. That's what I tell people, and that doesn't cost anything.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that, and likewise, I look
Hmm.
forward to see what's your game plan for 2021. What do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, well, my big thing is I want to collaborate with Oprah Winfrey and Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
So I am passionate about mental wellness in terms of helping empower women overcome depression. So I think with their platforms, it'd be a great opportunity to share with even more women, about what depression can look like and how they can overcome it. So it's a subject that a lot of people feel uncomfortable about discussing, depression. And so I just want to be able to say, I get a lot of attention because I do have 15 kids, and they say,
You
hey, I
have
want to hear
15
what she has to
kids?
say. Yeah.
Wow.
15,
Wow.
yes. So we still have
Wow.
10 that live at home and 8 of them that are doing e-learning right now. Yeah.
Wow, that's man. Well, I'm happy that ours is 2 and 4, and only the 4-year-old is the one that's going through a kindergarten homeschool kind of thing. But
I'm
I
telling
should
you.
say my wife is happy because she's a teacher, or she's a former teacher. So, no, wow, that's wow.
Yeah. So you see, a lot of people are like, how do you do it? So it gives me a great segue to be like, yeah, you know what? I didn't do it so well at sometimes in my life. And If you see me now, you wouldn't know what I've went through, but I want to be able to prevent you from having that same, downward spiral, from my experience. So I'm very passionate about it.
I love. I mean, depression is a lot. I know quite a bit about depression personally
Mhm.
and through friends. So, I think that is absolutely awesome, and we should definitely talk more after this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate all your insights. This has really been a lot of fun.
You're
I feel
very
like I've
welcome.
known you for a long time. We both got super somewhere in our name. So, you're all right with me.
Well, thank you. It's likewise, Michelle. Likewise.
Awesome. So now what parting words would you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah. So I always think that um, all right. So my grandfather, my great grandfather, actually would say like, if owning a business was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Mm,
And it's not just for businesses, right? It's content creation. It's doing what's you're passionate about, and trying to really make a dent in the universe with it.
mhm,
So it's tough, and there's a lot of there's a lot of down days that you look and you're like, oh, somebody else is doing something, like going back to the comparison thing.
mhm,
So I um I think that if you're really passionate about something, and you're like, hey, I really want to start a podcast. I want to talk about. I want to bring something more to light. I want to um, have an opportunity to meet other people that are in the same realm as me.
mhm,
Those are the things that content creation, or starting your own business around, can absolutely make a difference to you, and enable you to put your head down, and worry
mhm,
about getting the work done that's going to push you to where you want to be, rather than worrying about what everybody else has got going on, or doing, or appearing to be doing. Because I can tell you, I mean, I'm sure you could tell the same stories, Michelle, but there's a
mhm.
lot of people that say like they got all this stuff going on, but then
Right.
some of the pieces don't always add up, as far as
Mhm,
like, well, I wonder why they're like this or doing this, or and if if you spend that time to just take a look. So if you're feeling those doubts, take a little closer look.
mhm.
Someone said, I got 1 million downloads on my podcast, it's amazing. Like, okay, go to their Twitter feed and see how many people are actually interacting with the posts that they got. Right, that doesn't
Right.
take much to say, and then be like, oh, well, maybe they do get 1 million downloads, but they ain't got people like flooding their Twitter, their Twitter feed with how much they love the show all the time, or anything like, or
So
interacting
true.
with the posts that they're making. So if that's not happening, they're either lying, or
Mhm.
it maybe it's okay, it's downloads, but where are those downloads really coming from? People that
Right.
aren't interacting. I mean,
So true.
so it's just things to understand, that like it's not all the way everybody paints it all the time.
Mhm.
So the whole believe half of what you see, and or what is
So
it, not
true.
half of what you hear, and or half of what you see and none of what you hear,
Well,
kind of thing. Definitely always keep it in mind. Not that there aren't good people out there. I know quite a few of
right.
them. I've had extensive experience with those people, but those people generally aren't the ones that are having the most success, no matter how they're portraying it online.
So
They're
true.
all working through their own issues.
Yeah, I was reading this post on I want to say it was Facebook, and it said a lion doesn't have to go around saying it's a lion. So, your actions
I'm
will
gonna give you
speak
some
for
digs for that. I
themselves.
like that.
So I remember that all the time. I'm thinking if they're tooting their own horn too much, you shouldn't have to do that. Let other people speak for you. So that is just so true. Great advice, because especially now when people are trying to reinvent themselves, they're very impressionable. Maybe they were in a certain industry for years and they're starting over, and they're looking to some of these other people as examples, and just being mindful of that as they go on their journey. So great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they're not always the, again, you're not going to necessarily hit the target with your people, the people that you're think that you're like, oh, I'm going to make this show and it's going to be for XYZ people, and then turns
Yeah.
out it's like the ABC people showed up and they're more interested because they want to know about the XYZ people that aren't interested in your show because they live it every day.
So
Kind of
true.
thing. But you don't know
So
that
true.
until you do it and then find out, like, and ask people, like, survey them, or just take a look at who's liking the page, who's liking the tweets, who's liking the whatever. So,
So true.
those are things to keep in mind at all times when you're trying to figure out, like, who do you think you're speaking to, and then who are you actually speaking to.
So true. So true. And, that reflection time is so important because, we just think about what we want to do, and it's like the easiest way is think, okay, so how many sales or conversions have you had? Because we're like, oh, I just got the best thing. Well, how many people are buying it? How many people want to support you? And, a lot of times we brush over that and don't want to talk about it. We keep trying to tweak something that nobody is interested in. So that is a good point to bring up.
Yeah. Oh, I made six figures, and we had this awesome launch and stuff. It's like, okay, well, great. You might just be getting into that story now, but they might
Right.
have been doing this for 10 years, and to get to that point where they actually
So
have a launch
true.
that's like actually successful. Because I'll tell you, I've launched a crap ton of products and services over the years,
Right.
and they have not all been very successful. So and success is in the eye of the beholder, obviously. So
So true.
it just depends
So
on
true.
where you're at and what you're looking at. So keep your expectations in check as at all times as you're trying to figure out what your what looks like success for you.
So true. Well, this has just been great. And as you can see, I could go on for hours. I feel like, we
Likewise.
definitely have so much in common, And I just want to encourage everybody who's watching to reach out to Joe, follow him on all his social media links, and listen to his podcast. And because it's so important to make sure that you can find some genuine, authentic people out here who are really trying to serve and help other people. So definitely somebody that you definitely want to check out. And we want to thank you guys for watching this evening and want you to have a wonderful week. And we will see you on the next episode. So, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.